So what do you think will happen with the upcoming rally? Because there are people who are worried that it could lead to some kind of a confrontation. Should we be concerned?
Since we've been actually witnessing a lot of pressure by the rallies, let's say kind of like the series of that, because we have both of several groups of students, even school students and university students, and we have a lot of protest, demonstration, and rally that come out with different kind of requests to the government, let's say. And they also believe that this pressure would actually call the attention. And when we say call the attention as the beginning of this, the talk of us, we saying why are they still continuing doing this, and what exactly that we hoping to see.
Yeah, because they have made the demands known already. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. Because they want to be heard. Basically, I mean, they want the government and they want a person who is in power, which is a questionable power one, to actually listen to them in several ways. And if you really listen to a lot of topics that they talk, it's not that bad. Some of the topics, they're addressing environment, they're addressing the budget of the country, they're addressing standard of education, and they're addressing their own future that they are going to, which we've been babbling about where the students are for the past several years in terms of mobilization, in terms of political movement, and here they are coming out to say what they witness as a flaw, what they witness as a gap, what they witness as they think that the change should be there. Yes, of course, for their needs is like they want a speed of light that perhaps a lot of adults cannot take that speed of light, and they think that the way they communicate might raise the question of, is it really this way to communicate what you want? Then we have to talk on how they communicate and the problem of a different generation or what else. But this also reflects that they've never been heard, and there is no platform. There is no way that they can address what they want. This might also question the representative democracy as well. That whether or not a representative is a true representative of every group and segmentation in the country. We have in 20 years national strategy that stresses a lot on innovation, inclusiveness, and against inequality and everything else. Here they are. There is a lot of requests made in terms of rally and the stage that the students present. The problem is whether or not they actually be listened to already, because there is nothing coming out from the other side. From the government, they make a lot of requests, and some of the requests actually repeat itself, and even repeat to the parliament, even some of the House of Representatives, and some of the politicians or even the government side seem to agree upon a lot of change, incremental one or a radical one. Then it means that they expect to see something, some result of what they request, make the progress on that. And I think if they can see that they've been listened to, I think we actually can come out with a platform of talk and then assure them, give them some trust that when the request was made and is full of data, they've done a lot of analysis though, by the way. The students, especially school students, surprised me a lot. And because of that, it might actually help the government to gather crowdsourcing in the analog way. We've been talking before, this is a crowdsourcing in the analog way that you get this.
You are certain that you believe that they know what they're doing, right? This is the students.
I think they know what they're doing, and I think they make the decision that they're gonna actually make a request public through this kind of channel. And
because the demands are quite diverse.
Right.
There are one set of demands that deal with the political issue, right? Something that they want to be sort of addressed immediately. But then there are demands that deal with some very, very, very old traditional issues like school regulations, education system, things that certainly take time to be addressed, right? So, as far as you understand, what are their priorities?
The biggest priority.
This is what I think. We have a lot of groups in the society already, and we've been babbling about we're going to accept the differences and the different needs that people have. And then different groups have different needs. So if you ask me what's the priority of the nation to do, it depends upon who's look at it, whose perception on it.
Okay.
The government have to set priority to what to deal with, but they have to deal with it one way or another. And then the students themselves, I think even though there seem to be a lot of stuff going on, but if you really take a look, one said they're questioning of the problem of ineffectiveness and inefficiency in terms of public service, and how how can I say, the activity of government that can make their life, improve their condition of life, and that's a lot of students' talk is on that way. The other said they're questioning the political kind of change. I would have call it political restructure.
Okay.
And then why? Because they're witnessing a lot of legitimacy of who's coming into the power, and as well as the questioning the privilege. It has been shown a lot. This is not a lie or not lie. This is what we witness, that a lot of privileges, a lot of wrongdoing has been going on. So they're questioning whether or not, in terms of to try to fix a lot of things that they request, which is a public problem. We all agree on that public problem. That said, we might need to also restructure and change some of the political setting as well, so that that can be done. And because of this as well, there would be a lot of requests in terms of, seem to us as a fragment, because a lot of people come and talk. But one thing that is good about this, even though it seems to be a lot, when they take the stage and make their point, they really make that point in each point of it. And they only use 10 minutes, each of them. This is very punctual. I really like the way they try to make points in terms of that. But then the priorities of all of that, I think students and everyone certainly sees that we have the problem with kind of political structure. We kind of actually have to question the legitimacy, and whether or not, when we talk democracy, whether or not they're being heard, several groups, and there is a legitimate certain kind of vote in whether in the system, parliament, or anything to actually make decision on public policy, and any actually legal policy or legal activity that's gonna come out. Make sure that that process happen, not predicted result before you even vote. That kind of thing raised the question, I guess.
But you think what is going on in the parliament right now with the submission of motions that debating on the potential constitutional amendments, do you think this is something that will please the students to somehow?
That's actually one of their requests as well. And this is not just come out of the blue, because a lot of people, professors, even teachers in some of the schools, or also the discussion between students and the discussion between family even. We are talking about what is actually in the detail of constitutions. And there are several of the topics in the constitutions that we seem to agree more and more in terms of numbers of people that it needs to be changed. And some of them is actually obstruct, some of them is actually delay and slow down the process of development and improvement of a country as well. So by that fact that people seem to look, but you have to actually read them, and you have to actually be patient enough to listen to what they make in terms of requests and the details in it. Some of that is actually really needed to be amended. And I think a lot of people, in the way of changing mind, I see some of senators and House of Representatives, and then the switch. Even though it switched back and forth, it also reflect that in deep is actually they accept some change have to be done. So I think that is something that we agreed upon too.
So people have speculated that there might be some sort of confrontation during the September 19th protest between the protesters or the police force. How can we prevent this?
The confrontation?
Yeah.
Oh God. If you talk confrontation at this point, I presume that the confrontation had several kind of confrontation. We are talking about the police, the enforcement that actually doing their job. And then those people who is actually going to do the rally and protest. And also we have different groups. As we can see for the past couple of weeks, we have kind of two setting up groups that actually have a different idea. opposite idea. Let's make it that way. And if there is going to be, because we already have the confrontation, I think last time, but it's actually end first. One group ends first. And I think, to be honest, I think we have to hold on to one thing. Everyone has a different idea. And as much as you are different and as much as you say no to the other, we say yes, you say no. But you cannot actually, presumably, say that that person is wrong and start hating each other before hearing what exactly is the request that made, what is the repeat problem and the issue that actually put on the table. And that's for the two groups of the rally that might actually come to confront to each other. Because you are holding a different kind of data set, you're holding different kind of belief. And then if you say that you can accept the differences, it means that you have to actually don't hate each other in the first place and listen to really what is actually in details and then come talk. That's why I said the platform's supposed to be there. From the enforcement and the people, I think last time we can see that the enforcement, they actually is trying to make it, they're doing their job, basically. And what's the job? Let's talk on that one. The job is to make sure that this rally and the protest is actually safe, as well as them too. Both of them have to be safe. They're doing their job. These people are doing their job in terms of being an active citizen and come out and make the request. So you need a safety and peaceful atmosphere in the area to be protected and have the activity going on and ends peacefully. I think that's the goal of doing the job of both sides, not actually coming out and the job is to perhaps fighting for one another to just create a chaos. I don't think that's the goal in the first place.
So despite what you see as the good intention of the students, but of course there are many people who doubt the honesty of the student, right? They still believe that there are people pulling strings from behind. And then even the Prime Minister himself yesterday in the House debate, he still insisted that there were people behind these students, politicians. And he said, I'll find out sooner or later who are behind these people. So how do you see this?
Why are we questioning? Why are we starting questioning? So because when we do that, we are putting our emotion, our assumption, our doubt without anything that support that kind of thought, and with that it stir up what exactly this what is going on, this rally or demonstration or protest, because they want to make a request publicly, but since there is no formal platform, I pretty much like when the Minister of Education is coming and talk to the students. That kind of thing. Is it legitimate? If it's so, just create that kind of thing and make them talk two sides. When you start questioning, you lose the purpose of the request. What's the request that we need to be shown? What can we agree upon?
It's a substance.
It's the substance of the request. And is it really we have to jump across what the student is trying to do and try to see who's behind so that we can pinpoint, we can actually undermine the substance of what is actually being arguing right now by just trying to pinpoint to who exactly motivate them. And even if there is some motivators there, but then everyone has the right to be motivated by what they believe and whom they trusted. Fight with the trust. Be giving the trust to fight with the trust, that the trust something that they hold on. Just don't do the emotional pinpoint.
In fact, it's nothing new for people who come out to demonstrate, to have people who agree with their stand to be supporting them, right? In the past, I mean, you have rallies that a demonstration that you have political factors or political movements supporting this kind of street protest. Nothing unusual about this.
As I said, in the atmosphere. Okay, let's to be fair. I also came from the school that teach us to question. Actually, question the teacher, question everything that we think is not fair for us. And then if school open enough, we can just walk and talk to them. And then whatever we see on the street, it's not going to be on the street of the school, so that it's there. And then we talk, they accept, and then we fix it together. If that kind of mechanism is there and make it formal, because as I know, some of the requests that the student made, they made it from the formal official channel. They actually go to send what they request in the substance. And then there is no way that they can explain all of that. They can perhaps fix what the question has asked, so they create another kind of platform so that they can be heard and perhaps record in social media or anything that actually can make it there. So, but I think one thing that perhaps troubled the most is the way they communicate. And this is somehow, I have to say that, because we as an adult, I also consider myself old, so basically in the other generation, we might actually expect the certain kind of set of value and certain kind of manner that it has to be like, not talk too much, be quiet and listen first. I think we might have to balance it out, the outgoing, and then they dare to speak out in not be emotion and not the hate speech, and then not with the not too polite of kind of word, but
not judge them by their appearance or the way
just don't
they
judge them
communicate,
yet.
right?
Sometimes
Judge them by the substance.
The personality of being straightforward, you have to be fair. We teach them to be that. At some point, to be straightforward, dare to speak for themselves.
So basically give them a space to speak up for what they think about and say what they believe in, but don't put yourself or look at them in such a patronizing way. Am I correct?
Yes, and on the other way around, if they keep doing kind of like people power for environment protection, for forests, for the, this one is good, for the accountability and transparency of the government to spend tax or expense on any kind of public expenditure, I think that's what we want, the transparency and the process of feedback to go on in public system. That's what we want. And this kind of culture have to be safe for them to be able to have a platform to speak and give the feedback back to the government of what they actually see.
No, but what is worrying many people is the likelihood that the upcoming rally will not touch only on the political demands that we already know about, right? But there will be issue of the monarchy that some of the student leaders said they will continue to raise at the rally. So how concerned are you with this prospect?
Oh, this is a big question, and a lot of requests that we can also see the difference between groups as we speak, because the school students group and the group at the Democracy Monument, they also address the same thing, kind of like problem repeating itself, and then the group that actually try to get to the sensitive issue have also been refused from these other two groups. So I think with this is also reflect that the priority that you asked in the first place might have to go with one that they agree upon as the one who make the request first. Political restructure, political reform, bureaucratic reform maybe, the transparency of the government, legitimacy of people who's in power, get rid of those inequality and those kind of things, not inclusiveness. And then to the change of a lot of things that's going to make a country run to the point that we agree upon the change on something that bigger than that and very sensitive have to actually be presented in a different way and not in the speed of light that they want.
So basically what the protesters actually want is not just the government to listen to them, but to also take action.
Yeah, of course. Of course, because the only evidence that they're being listened to or they're being heard is performance. You know, the word feedback works two ways too. You hear something, feedback and performance is there, and you do too. So I think you need to make that, because all of this we are getting into the problem of trust in the first place. And trust, I just had one of the lecture from other professor today. One of trust is actually gonna happen if we question legitimacy. If the legitimacy is there for the people who's in power or anything, the privilege in the society, you need to have a performance of that setting as well, so that it's construct the trust and the society can actually pretty much move on.
So do you personally agree with the protests that are going on? Is it the best way to get their points straight and for the government to actually understand what they really want?
Basically, people have right to actually express the differences in their idea and their democracy, and they can actually even touch upon the political thought, those kind of thing. And we've been taught the student of this era or generation in that way. But then if you ask me, this is the most appropriate way to do so. Let's picture the rally and the protest that the Minister of Education present. Let's do that one. That one is actually simply is the same atmosphere of the protest that students do, but they are a representative of the other sides coming to talk. That kind of platform, can we make it more often? Can we make it more frequent? Can we be like talk to each other, not just one side talking? And no, but you cannot just talk and then disappear though.
Yeah.
You have
No,
to
this
make a list.
is unprecedented, but it serves as a good model for the two sides to sit down and talk.
It will be better if it's not on the street. Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
right.
But then you have to create this kind of listening and giving back what you're gonna do more oftenly and make it a new culture of, you want crowdsourcing, you want empathy, you've been promoting this, the government. There's also one way to get it.
Okay,
In a more
so the
peaceful
education minister has taken the lead now. So we are still waiting for the prime minister to fulfill his promise to have a dialogue with the students. So you see that prospects happening?
Before we getting into this break, I see the picture of the prime minister addressing students at his children. So if that softness in his heart is there, somehow he might be able to start. Because I think Palang Pracharat or one party that's sending their representative to every rally and demonstration, the student had to list it down what they want and what point is really good so that they can move on. The prime minister can start from there, getting that point, speak back to the public or the representative of the students and make, instead of talking to himself as Friday event or anything, he can also address this to representative of the students. So it will create another picture.
I see.
It will be nice too.
His statement is saying that he treats these people like his own children. Does he really mean that way, or is he just making an excuse?
We're getting there, right? You remember we asked this question before when we are here with the COVID-19 of his new normal. You remember that day?
Remember.
And I actually simply the one who said that I'm hoping that would be the new normal of the prime minister and the way the public sector is working, not a new normal of a communication strategy. I personally said that.
That's right.
And it has been proved for the time being that it's a communication strategy. Because suddenly on the next day, my beloved prime minister going back to the same way he communicates. but then I would rather see this. You know, when we talk about children, when we talk about student, new generation, new future of the society, we kind of having a soft side. I believe everyone has that as an adult, a very logical one. So basically by that, I'm hoping that the prime minister really meant it. And I'm waiting for the platform that the prime minister actually come talk. And then if that happens, I perhaps have to tell the student side that just to be soft and be patient of his personality a bit. And then we have to accept the different and something that we might not like. But then just make that happen and moving on that one.
But how can we be sure that the prime minister will actually, if that does happen, on September 19th, that the prime minister will actually talk to the protesters, just like the education minister talking to the students? How can we be sure that the prime minister will really listen and open his own heart to these people, not just listening to them and then make comments in such a condescending way?
Oh, you cannot tell on that day though, but you will be able to tell 3 days after.
Right.
Because students and the people have had this demonstration and rally for a little while. A lot of requests, a lot of substances actually have to be taken to do some progress. And as we can see, the drafting committee has been mentioning the amendment and everything else. So basically, at least 1 or 2 topics of the request has been in progress that need to be progressed more. They need to make it quick, not just like propaganda and then it's done. So on that day, listening or not, we cannot tell. His presence would speak on the other thing, on to talk with this but the 19 is so emotional right now. I'm not sure that the prime minister would actually do that.
But it's not too late for him, right? He tried to listen, sit down, listen to the protester.
As I
Is it too
said,
late
there
already?
are
Because the demand that they will be making on the 19th, we understand, is that they will put pressure on the prime minister to
I don't
resign.
think anything is too late, but it's more difficult now. Let's make it this way, because we expect some change, especially thanks to COVID, and then sorry to the COVID. COVID-19 is supposed to actually trigger a lot of change, radical one, dramatic one. But then we lost that momentum in terms of changing the way public sector work and also the new normal of whatever he promises. So that is really open opportunity, open windows for him, and then he's kind of like busy with something else.
He missed,
So
he missed the opportunity.
so right now, if he's going to do it, it's going to be more difficult because of the bias that the public
that's
already
right,
has. And because of the emotion right now, the atmosphere of the fight over the rally and protest for a long time, and also some of the arraignment, some of the punishment, some of those enforcements that's doing to the protester has already been somehow not in a positive side to the prime minister. So I think being better late than never, but then you cannot be too late because it's going to be too difficult.
Right.
And the prime minister might not be that patient to get not so good feedback in the first place, because you might need to do it several times. And that means a longer time to
And I'm
go.
sure that you have talked to a number of students, especially those involved in the protest. But do the students have the feeling that, judging from his speeches, his reactions, do they have the feeling that the Prime Minister listens to them at all?
I don't have to talk to the student to answer this one. I can actually speak on my own self. The personality of being a military is very strong already in the first place, and he's not there for too much of the long talk. We already know that it's not to the rally or the demonstration or the request. So to me, when he communicates back, he might need to also offer what he's really intend to do. I think with that, he doesn't have to be really sweet. It's unlike him, and it's counteract the personality. He can choose to tell what exactly would be a progress, what exactly could be a approach that we're going to actually go there together in the future. With offering those kind of the details, can also regain everything without changing the way he acts as a bias already. But we need that performance in terms of that, so that the
Hopefully.
trust toward him is going to actually be a little bit gaining back.